Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Karlee.
I'm Sandra, and we are lucky enough to have a fanfic author joining us for this episode. According to BJ's profile on AO3, she has been a consumer and writer of fan fiction since 1998. The first supernatural fic posted on AO3 in 2018 had the very relatable author's note. So, my sister introduced me to supernatural a couple of months ago, and it's devoured my sanity. This is the first smut fic I've written in years. She's posted 26 fics for the supernatural fandom since then, as well as a handful of writings for post-supernatural Jensen projects, including The Boys and Big Sky. When it comes to her fanfic, she states, feedback and constructive criticism always welcome. Subscriptions to author yearned for with deep and desperate longing. As fellow writers, I can safely say Karlee and I wholeheartedly agree. So BJ, we want to say thank you for coming to the podcast to discuss supernatural and fan fiction with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yay. So First off, just reading that one note had me giggle immensely about how you were introduced to supernatural by your sister and that it affected your mental state. But exactly when did you get into supernatural? Was it in 2018 when you posted Snowbound, or did that happen earlier? And can you kind of share that overall experience?
Okay. Well, what had happened was there was some life stuff that was going on. At the time, I was kind of in the market for a new obsession because my Mass Effect phase was winding down.
Okay.
And
wait. Mass Effect. Who is your Mass Effect romance? Who is it?
Oh, crud. You put me on the spot now.
There's only one answer. Come on now.
It depends on how I'm playing Shepard. I'm sorry, I don't have a favorite necessarily.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
I mean, it's a video about the one that's the best, the one that the creators obviously were going for. It's male Shepard Liara, but if you're talking about the one that's the best executed, it's female Shepard Garrus.
Yes, there it is. Yes.
Yay! I'm so glad somebody. I'm so glad that's been figured out.
I'm sorry. Just I'm unable to let anybody tell me, even mention Mass Effect in passing without being wait, no, who do you romance? This is vital information.
So can I just ask before we get into a whole Mass Effect tangent, just for clarification, is this just an RPG? What kind of? Okay.
It's an action RPG. It's an action RPG. It's was produced by BioWare. Think Star Trek, but a little more grounded.
Okay.
Basically, it was actually another fanfic that actually clued me in on this. Mm-hmm. It's an answer to the Fermi paradox, the idea that based on what we know about the galaxy and how it works, there should be literally millions of sentient advanced species out there. But so far, we haven't found evidence of anything. So why is that? Mm-hmm. And their hypothesis is there's basically a giant civilization-eating machine that is going and wiping everybody out when they reach a certain stage in development.
Okay. Is this kind of maybe, I'm stretching a little bit, but how Thanos and Infinity, going from civilization to civilization, just kind of wiping it out, kind of that kind of thing?
Yeah, similar.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So,
and it's just by the nature of who created it, you create a male or a female character that's yours, and then there are various romance options.
Oh.
And depending on if you're male or female, depends who you can romance and how that shakes out. And Garrus is Faye. Garrus is the one.
And you have to look this up just for reference later, just so I can see what all this is.
Garrus is an alien as well.
Okay, Garrus alien. Okay, gotcha.
Garrus is an alien.
Yeah,
and you can't romance him in the first one, so you have to make a choice if you're going to romance somebody else and then bin them off, or if you're going to stay true and single until Mass Effect 2 and you can have your bae.
Well, it's sorry, I apologize. We're tangenting, but just,
fine.
Before we seal this off, well, the only other real romance option in the first game is Caden. And for practical reasons, I have an issue with that because in a military situation, you don't screw your subordinates. Okay, you just don't.
No, you don't. But then if you ever played the old BioWare game Knights of the Old Republic, and you realize
that I haven't had the pleasure.
Well, the voice actor that plays Caden is the same guy who played the female character's romance option in Knights of the Old Republic, and you're like, screw the rules. I have liked your voice for so many years. Get in the bed. And then you regret that because he whines endlessly for the rest of the game. And then when you hook up with Garrus, he comes back in Mass Effect 3 and whines at you some more. And I'm like, I don't like you anymore. You fucking whine too much. Go away.
So the voice was a big deal. No. The voice was
scrolls deep into Google now. Like, I don't know what's happening.
No. I've got it written down for later, Karlee. You know me. I'm not going to be able to like manage all that. But so is the voice very seductive?
not particularly. No.
Because when you guys, okay,
it's just quite a normal voice. But his character model in Knights of the Old Republic was like, it's weird to say for a game that old, but quite attractive. Like he had some like little flippies going on and stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
So
we got the flippies. Yeah. I should have figured, Karlee.
I'll send you some pictures later.
Okay, that sounds good.
So yeah, no, I completely derailed this.
No, I was the one that wanted to ask. I needed some more of that too. So good. No, great. So you were getting over your Mass Effect or trying to find something to replace that, and along came Supernatural.
Essentially, what happened was I'd seen names dropped, all over fandom, as happens. The Winchester brothers or referencing disaster situations, that kind of thing. And my sister happened to drop something like that. And finally, I just flat out said, okay, I've heard of this all over the place. What is it about? And she queued up Netflix, and instead of starting with the premiere, she started me in season 2, Tall Tales.
We just were talking about that episode. Yes. Okay.
Because my sister knows me. She knows that insane sibling relationships are my jam. Like, let me put it this way. My favorite Nicktoon back in the day was the Angry Beavers because it nails the Sib thing perfectly.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I was listening to the episode that y'all did with Incogninja, and she mentioned being a huge Norman Reedus fan. Boondock Saints is actually a movie I enjoy very much, just because of the interplay between the brothers, because it's perfect.
Okay.
And that I was, because you see the cold open where you see the professor and the dead girl and all that jazz. But then it cuts to when we first see the guys in the room and they're stuck together and they have nothing to do but piss each other off. And there's this extraordinarily attractive man sitting on his brother's bed, slurping up chili fries and being just an irritating little shit. And I'm like, oh God, yes, this is my person. I mean, I was a goner immediately.
I need Jared to lose some fucking weight. I'm sick of holding Sam on my own. Jesus. So you would consider yourself a Dean person?
Yeah, it's because there's a lot about him that I vibe with, because we're both older siblings. Canonically, he's almost exactly a year older than I am. My birthday is the 28th. His is the 24th. And when you go through your life feeling overshadowed by your clearly more intelligent and more accepted sibling, I vibe with that. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. No judgment. I don't judge anybody who is Dean over Sam, unless it's Sandra, and she knows why. You know what you did.
Yes.
I'm just like, he's like 220 pounds of muscle. He's heavy to hold up on my own. We need more Sam people in this podcast. That's what we need.
No, I was just going to say, BJ, I always find it very interesting every time, like, finding out how people connect with different characters like immediately, and
Mm-hmm.
that yours was basically like on, first of all, hot, but then sibling level of being the older of the two. And I know for me, it's more with Dean, I think it became more about being kind of like the caregiver kind of the family, or the one that was kind of like, trying not to make waves and stuff like that. And just kind of like doing what was told and that kind of thing. So I always find that interesting.
Obviously, there was the charisma factor. I mean, look at the man, for God's sake. But near the end of season 1, where we first encounter John as, a presence and not just an idea.
Right.
And watching that scene in the episode where we first encounter vampires, where Sam and John are arguing by the side of the road and Dean is just standing there and looking between them. And I belly felt that, because I've been there watching the two people that he loves more than himself. I mean, this is the meaning, the thing that gives his life meaning, and watching them fight like that. I mean, that hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know we've dissected like Sam and Dean to death, and we'll probably continue to do that. But I think for me, it's just always
dynamic.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me. I think how much, especially even in that one scene, even though he gets between the both of them, I think you actually see him protecting Sam. I think like from John, like you see his just physical stance is turning to John and being like, no, like this is not going to happen right now. And that I think just speaks volumes to the relationship, that the brothers have. And yes, how they get on each other's nerves to some, I think it was a lot more apparent in the earlier seasons, but it's like Hell House was, I think, another really great one to see them just pranking on each other, some light moments. But yeah, we were just talking about Tall Tales. So I got to ask then, because we talked about 5 minutes about this one scene in Tall Tales just before you got on, because we did another episode. Were you like on the floor, like just enraptured by when Dean was kissing that lady at the bar? Because we were talking about how just it had a very like amazing feel to it. So, like that you couldn't really describe why it was so seductive, but it was just like, oh my gosh. Karlee brought this up before I did.
Context in life is basically everything. And the way the scene is framed, because it's the Rashomon effect. Everybody is the hero of their own life story. You're supposed to feel like it's, erotic and sensual and
how suave he is, like just like, that like, we were talking about that
and
too.
Then
like
you have Sam who's acting like a complete infant. That's because, in that specific scenario, that's how Dean would see any interruptions.
Yeah, but it's
just amazed at how, like, does Dean really think? Yeah, but does Dean really think of himself that way? Like, I would be like, wow, like Dean, you're, I mean, I know you're great, but like, you're really thinking that, you could just turn on the charm to like a 20 there. And it's just like, yeah, we were talking about that and how interesting that one scene was. Oh, that's great. I'm glad that was your first. So being that was your first introduction, did that kind of throw you off for when it got really heavy? Then did you start and go back to the very beginning? Like once you saw that one episode, you're like, okay, I'm just going to start at the very beginning and see what all this is about?
No, that was my sister, because she showed me Tall Tales and I'm like, okay, this is something that I really need to know more about. And so she took me back to the series premiere and we started working through season 1. And over the next several months, there was some life stuff going on. I was by myself a lot of the time, and I just started working through the seasons. Actually looking at my face, because I'm not active on Twitter at all. Looking at my Facebook, I can see the initial plunge through the first, I think it was like 6 seasons, happened fairly quickly, because within about 3 weeks, I was posting things like, sorry guys, but Ypsilanti in December is never that green.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was quick. You got through it quick. So did you start? Was it 2018 or was it earlier than that when you first watched Tall Tales?
2018.
Okay.
I could probably tell you the date if I looked at Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I never get into fandoms on the ground floor. I wasn't into Buffy until after the series had already wrapped.
I watched it on, I think, Netflix after it was done, and I didn't start. I didn't start Supernatural until like 2019. Finally, I was like, okay, this show's been on for 15 seasons. I'm seeing it pop up on Netflix. Maybe I should watch it. So that was interesting. I think Karlee, was it 2017 for you?
I started in 2017, but I think I dropped off around like maybe season 4.
Okay.
It was like some VPN shenanigans going on, and I came back to it in 2019, 2020 maybe.
Okay.
Well, I hadn't thought of that. Karlee, you're based in the UK, right?
Yeah. So we don't.
So there would be broadcast issues, wouldn't there?
Yeah, it did air on like RTV a few months after it aired in the US, but if you missed it, it didn't come back on, and it wasn't on any of our streaming services at the time. You can get it on UK Amazon now because they've taken it on and off a few times, but back then you couldn't. It was VPN DVDs or bust. And I wasn't prepared to commit to the DVDs in 2017. I was like, no, I don't even know if I like the show enough. So I came back to it a couple of years after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the old days when you had to have the VCR ready.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah. I think that was one of the best things I found about Netflix too after was like, okay, well, for me, it's like once something's finally done, then I'm like, okay, I think I can go through it. Like I know there's an ending of some sort, and I've heard a lot about a show. Now I can go back and binge it. Maybe even if it wasn't something that was like popular when I was younger, or maybe had been skewed for, a different generation, I could still go back and, and kind of watch it and explore that a little bit more. But yeah, with Supernatural, it was, well, I'm going to ask you too. Do you like horror? Like, are you a horror fan? Was that something that kind of like once you got into the show too, that kind of gravitated towards, at least like for the first couple seasons, where it felt really more heavily towards like, horror movie, quote unquote, kind of feel, monster of the week stuff?
Not really, because I'm not really a horror fan. I don't like being scared.
Yeah.
What attracted me, I mean, besides the guys, was because, and I found this a characteristic of the boys too, of Kripke's other work, is it's operating on multiple levels. You have the obvious stuff that's going on, because there are times when they're both feel like they've been written by a broadsword, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But then you say, well, what are they actually trying to say with this? And then you start, looking a little bit deeper, and then a little bit deeper. I mean, the first Terminator is my favorite movie, and Mad Max Fury Road runs at a close second for the exact same reasons. I mean, on the one hand, you have these great action flicks going on, but look a little bit deeper, and there's a much larger story that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny. Yeah, the way Kripke, especially with those two shows in particular, how very much it's like hit over the head, but then you can have some people watch it and they're not getting the very obvious, like you said, on the surface level, like what's being presented, and then what's kind of going on underneath. So yeah, I'm going through, I don't know how many I think this might be my 4th or 5th rewatch, and I'm just like getting season 3 started, and I'm getting more of an appreciation too for I think the early seasons, and just the boys and their relationship, and before it goes completely bonkers, even though there's a lot of stuff going on, it's still very intimate at times with just them, and their conversations and different things like that. So yeah, it's been around for so long and had so many sort of reincarnations of it that you kind of forget where it started. But yeah, The Boys too. That's a really, I know we really enjoy that show as well. And I was enjoying it before, Jensen came on, but then, Jensen, I think, made it even better. So it was a fun introduction to, to another character, and getting to see, especially how Kripke, I think, likes to recycle too, like a lot of actors, which I think is great. Like I'm glad he likes to bring certain actors back into different situations. And
well, all creators do that.
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah. But I like it when Kripke does it, because then I get to see Jim Beaver again. That makes me happy, because I really like him too as an actor.
When I first saw Bobby Singer and I got to look at, said, that's the arms dealer from Breaking Bad, isn't it?
See him in Breaking Bad until well after I'd finished Supernatural, because I didn't finish Breaking Bad until like dead ass like a decade after it aired, and I was like, oh my god, it's Bobby! It's Bobby!
Yeah, I watched Justified because of Jim Beaver, knowing he was going to be in it. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this now because he's in it. So I was happy when I got to that season with him. So I guess too, like, a question was favorite characters that you have from the show, and like, are there any? Because we'll get into fan fiction a little bit too, but are there any like pairings or different dynamics that you really liked on the show, besides, of course, the obvious of like, Sam and Dean?
It depends on the kind of vibe that I'm going for. I mean, I adore Charlie because everybody adores Charlie.
She's
which,
baby.
for the record, sorry.
She is baby. We love Charlie.
Yeah.
She's baby.
And that is one of the genuine gripes I have with the show is we didn't get nearly enough Charlie. Charlie's awesome.
Yep.
I know I'm in a minority on this, but I found Mary intriguing. I didn't think we got enough exploration into her. Not saying she's a good person, but I'm saying that there were subtleties there that were left unexplored, and I think the series suffered for it. And
on the back of that, then, did you watch the Winchesters? Were you interested in seeing Mary and John's backstory, or were you out on that one?
Not really, because I know what it is about Supernatural that I like, and that's Sam and Dean, and we're not getting that back. Not even if they have a season 16 in a few years, which that seems to be the scuttlebutt. We're not going to get that dynamic back, and it would be a waste of time to try. They've moved on. Also, and I apologize. This might be completely out of context because, like I said, I haven't watched the Winchesters, so I might be off base with this. But it seems to me, based on the tiny little bit that I have heard, is that the Winchesters is basically Dean trying to somehow take an alternate universe version of his parents and change their story. And I don't see Dean doing that. That's a Chuck move. Dean, of all people, should know better.
There's a little bit more. We've watched the Winchesters, and
that I'm missing there. I grant that.
There's more to it than that, but you'd have to watch all of it, and I wouldn't recommend anybody sit through all of it just for 20 minutes of payoff at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're on the right like track in terms of, what the overall thought process or surface level might be at it too. Yeah.
Well, I think it is a question worth pondering. I think us as fan artists. I mean, does a fan artist's level of access to the creator really make their fix any more or less valid than anybody else's?
Yeah.
Because it's at the end of the day, I think it becomes everybody's story, right? Like, it just becomes everybody's version of what I know we've talked about that too. Like, my fix it has a certain goal in mind, like for Dean. And I know other people have fix-its for other reasons, maybe other relationships or how they see his life, or beyond what, for some people, episode 19 or episode, 20, so,
Isn't it weird that season 15 ended on 19 episodes? That's such a strange number to end on. I wonder whether they make it a round number.
Well, let me put it this way. First, let's leave aside for just a minute that that Dean deserved better, because he did. Accepting the final episode as valid means, to a certain degree, accepting the thesis statement that Sam and Dean cannot be happy if they're in each other's lives. And that is the thesis I reject. Absolutely. That is bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to go back to your question about not thinking that you can get the same feeling back. Like if they come back for a reboot, do you really feel that's because of just that they've moved on and wouldn't be able to reconnect with the characters again? Or do you think they would just try to not give us back the Sam and Dean that we are expecting, like in any way, shape, or form? Because I've always been of the mindset that if they come back, it's like, I don't want them to come back as an alternate universe Sam and Dean. It's like, I want these Sam and Dean. I said, I want them to somehow find their way out of heaven, get back to earth, and just do what they normally do. It's like that's what I want as one of that. So I didn't know if you were like thinking just because they've just moved on too much, because I know from a lot of the convention stuff I've been seeing, and it feels like Jensen, and I don't know if this is still true because I haven't watched any of the last few conventions, but he seemed very gung-ho, I think even more so than maybe Jared did, about, bringing Supernatural back. And I was always of the mindset that maybe now it's because he feels like he and Jared would take care of Sam and Dean maybe in a better way than maybe the later showrunners did. I didn't know, like, if you could expand a little bit more on that part.
Well, I don't think it's because the actors are incapable of embodying the characters again. God, no. I mean, they were them for 15 years.
Yeah.
I think it would be strange if they couldn't, put those back on again. It's a matter of in what context would you put them? They beat God. And one of the issues with Supernatural is that it had the perpetual escalation problem. And there really isn't a much bigger problem you can get than God without having to address some fundamental world building stuff. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I mean, there's the empty, obviously, but it's never really explained what the empty is, what does it want, why exactly it's personified. I think that the effort that would be required to make that work would not be worth the return that we would get out of it necessarily. And also with both of the principal actors and Misha Collins too, being firmly committed to other projects for the indefinite future.
Yeah.
By the time everybody's ducks would be in a row to make that happen. I mean, we're talking, what do you think? Like 3 or 4 more years at least?
Yeah. Karlee was saying the same thing. Like they're going to get to the point where they're just not going to be able to like maybe even do stunts.
No. Go with me. Go with me.
Okay.
Heaven's sitcom. Sam and Dean trying to make a normal life in heaven, and every month or so, Jack gives them a monster to hunt, and he's locked all the doors so Dean can't fuck off again. And they just do life. And there's no cast because fuck you, Misha, stay with Gotham. And Walker hasn't been renewed yet, so Jared might not be tied up. And I don't know what the fuck Jensen's doing. Go with me, Heaven's sitcom. It'll be fucking hilarious. That's what I want. Because I genuinely think, me and Sandra were talking about this last week. A big part of the reason that they probably put a stop to Supernatural was the stunts and the physical requirements of the role. So let's just leave that behind. I want Dean in that silly frilly apron that all like sitcom housewives seem to wear. And it's just dumb. I just want a dumb comedy show of them being dumb together. And like every so often Jack will show up and be like, look, I hit a werewolf in the woods. Go have a nice time. And then they get to just like, it's like a fishing weekend for them. Like, we're going on a hunting weekend, and they pack the car up and they go, and it's just nice. Come back and Dean makes a pie. I want that. That is what I want. Better than sitcom.
I think it's just wanting to see them, right? Like, it's just wanting to see them again, I think, in that role. And I think that's kind of all it comes down to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although now that image is stuck in my head, I do have a request. Can the frilly apron have printed over the front, God of Tits and Wine?
Yes! Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Yes. Yes, it can. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's gonna be pink as well, with that like frilly ruffly on the outside with the pocket. Yes.
Goodness.
And he's gonna wear it over like blue jeans and a flannel.
He doesn't even have to have anything under the
Okay, if HBO picks up my Heaven's sitcom, if HBO picks it up, then no, he's going to be naked. But if it stays on the CW, I want it to be like
too,
full
BJ.
Dean, with a little
like I want to see them I want to see Supernatural not on CW. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
like they keep
CW
getting stuck with CW, and it's like I would like to see what they could do. With just the seatbelt, like just take the training wheels off, just stop worrying about what they can and can't do. And kind of like what you see in The Boys, I'm like, this is probably what Kripke wanted to do so often than not.
I don't know if that would necessarily make for a better story, because one of the things that's intrigued me, especially as I've gotten older, is it's actually a quote. You ever heard of Tom Lehrer? He was a satirist, did some songs on the piano. He's the guy that did the Masochism Tango. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious.
Okay.
One of the notes that he made is the freedom to say whatever you want has been co-opted by the urge to hyper-focus on a very specific set of topics. Which is dick and fart jokes, naturally. Irreverence is easy. What is hard is wit. And there was something that Chuck Jones and Mike Maltese said when they were doing the Looney Tunes, is when they were first putting the Roadrunner and Coyote shorts together, they immediately had to write down a list of rules that they had to follow. And they found the more restricted they made the comedy, the funnier the jokes got. So I don't know that a content standard is necessarily a bad thing. On the other hand, we're dealing with a horror fantasy series where content restrictions mean, you're necessarily handicapped in what you can show and themes that you can explore. I think they did a damn good job within the lens of what they had.
Oh yeah.
But would it be a positive for the story if we had a situation like, you ever seen Outlander?
I haven't. No.
I haven't. No.
It's a Showtime series based on historical fantasy novels. And we are shown on camera and in living color some scenes of torture and sexual violence that are extremely disturbing. And I'm not sure if the story would benefit from having, I don't know if turning Supernatural into The Boys Light would be a good thing necessarily, is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Do you think if it were in the hands of Kripke, it might, like if Kripke, I know he wouldn't now, but do you think that, because I think he's done a really good job with The Boys too, in a way, like some things are sort of like crazy, but then I was expecting
he knows what
Herogasm. I thought was going to be this crazy thing, and it wasn't. And I think it actually worked better, in the environment.
It did, but I could have done without the hype about that. Oh my God, Herogasm. We were all hyped, and we were like, what? What?
Yeah.
What? That wasn't what? That was nothing.
As somebody who watches hentai unironically, I'm looking at that going, okay, naked people. And
yeah,
that's kind of where I was at with that. I was like, okay,
which of course is the idea that that's an anticlimax. That was the whole point.
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
But still,
I think I'd be happy. Go ahead, sorry.
And we didn't get Naked Soldier Boy. We needed more Naked Soldier
See
Boy.
that? I guess that's where it is too. It's just you just want to. That's where I'm at. I think that's where I'm at right now. So I just need to get over that that's not going to be a thing anyway, even if the rails were off on that anyway. Because we know that, I just have a feeling Jensen and Jared
wouldn't do it.
Yeah. No. So,
yeah, you could probably talk Jared into it because he's a bit he's younger than Jensen and he seems to be a bit freer, but I don't think you get Jensen to do anything much more than take his shirt off nowadays. I don't think you get that. I don't even want it to be like a boys like 18 plus. I just want him to have that kind of budget, like an Amazon budget, and be like
the special effects and stuff like that. That was just you see some of the things that they did. Legit. Yeah. It was kind of just like seeing the just a landscape, and like what they got to work with, which they still did a great job with the sets and everything that what they could do. But yeah, like getting to see that like cinematically, I guess is like my thing too.
Yeah.
Like I just want to you see some hints of really greatness in some directing and stuff like that, and just to think what that could be like if it was expanded a little bit more, giving
considering what they were able to accomplish with a broadcast channel budget and content standards, it's a fucking miracle, really. But having Amazon style money and Amazon access to locations and things, that would be a thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know you haven't watched the Winchesters, but the Winchesters was like, you remember Bugs from season 1? And we all go, oh God, what the fuck happened there? That was like the whole of the Winchesters were like that. All the monsters, you were going, what? What? Did you get that from Party City? What happened here? What is happening? What the fuck is happening right now? It was really bad.
The little bit of the footage that I've seen, so it has a problem with a lot of streaming direct projects. I'm probably not saying that right. Netflix originals and so forth, where everything looks like it's been drenched in like orangey paint. I hate that look.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just trying to emphasize the time period or whatever too, but almost like a weird filter sometimes, I think, on
and this isn't the Matrix, guys. You have access to a full color palette.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cross my fingers for my Heaven sitcom to get picked up by Amazon. That's what I want. Go wild, guys. Go wild.
So okay, actually, we're gonna go ahead.
So sorry. Would you have any objection to making that animated?
Can we get them to voice it? That's my thing. If we can get their voices, yes. I don't want a thing where, they're doing it, but it's not, they don't have some input in it. Because I'm even thinking like, I mean, I know I've watched a couple things, but like just fanfic in general, like the what ifs, of scenarios. And that's, I think, one of the blessings of Supernatural is just like how sometimes they go off the rails and, just explore. I think that animation gives you even more freedom to do that in lots of different ways too. So as long as you could hear them, I want them. I do like Jensen's voice and I do like Dean's voice, so I do want to hear him, but it was weird even hearing him in the Winchesters. It still didn't quite feel like Dean listening to it. Like I got excited the first time, but then I'm like, it's like, because I think he didn't have Sam with him. It's kind of like you gotta have Sam with Dean. You gotta have Dean with Sam.
Yep.
Yeah, and I do agree. Like I don't understand why there's that mindset that it's all they couldn't have a happy ending without finding a way to be together in some way, shape, or form. Like that, I don't get. But we're not. We could just go off on that for a while. So I'm going to try to rein it back a little bit into fan fiction. So, no, I love this discussion. But I wanted to know, because you'd said that you had written some fan fiction before Supernatural. Was it just Mass Effect, or was there some other stuff before that? And how far back are we talking in terms of like fan fiction?
Well, I was thinking about that, and I I don't know why I didn't remember it until just today. Actually, the very first fanfic I ever wrote was back in kindergarten. It was Rainbow Bright.
Oh, I loved Rainbow Bright. That was a great.
It wasn't anything. It was like the 2 sentences, and
still.
It started being its official thing. It was the summer after I got out of high school. I was working in a library, and it was just after The Phantom Menace came out, the first of the Star Wars prequels. And I was trying really hard to reconcile, because at that point I'd been a fan of the extended universe novels for several years. And I was trying to reconcile my love for Star Wars, the original trilogy, and the novels, reconcile my love for that story with the disappointment that I had in Phantom Menace, which my apologies.
I like that one.
Like I said, my apologies if you're fans of that. It's not a bad movie. It just wasn't Star Wars to me. So as I was poking around, I happened across an archive of some very adult fan fiction, and I subscribed to a few mailing lists, and when I realized it was a thing and what I should be looking for, because this was before everything. This was even before fanfiction.net, I think, where everybody had their own archives, and web rings were a thing.
I remember web rings. Yeah. Like Angel Fire and like different, Yeah.
And that's how I became aware of it as a distinct thing. I did write a few things that have thankfully been swallowed by the internet ether. They weren't very good. And then that phase petered out, and fast forward several years, and I happened to catch an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, bought the first season DVDs, and then went through that phase. And that's how I found a live journal, and was active there for a while.
Okay. I haven't used live journal. Is it very, because we've had a couple other people on, is it quite complicated, like in comparison to AO3 in terms of like navigating?
No, not. I haven't been on there for a good 10 years. But when I used it, I think in text, because I have problems expressing myself in speech. It's why I've stayed on Facebook and never really gotten to Twitter. The 140 character count was crippling to me. But I got plugged into that community that way. Well, that phase started to peter out, and then I moved to Dallas, and various life stuff happened, and fast forward, here we are.
Okay. So I noticed you've got some ABO stories. How did you, like, what got you into exploring that?
Well, what happened was I encountered Alpha Beta Omega when I was building a back file of stuff to read, because what I basically did is I found Archive of Our Own, and I set the search parameters to what I wanted, and then I just basically started at the beginning of the beginning that I could find, and just started clicking through pages one by one and pulling up anything that looked interesting, and if it was something that I read more than 10 seconds, I saved it. That's why my bookmark count is as stupid as it is. Yeah, and I'm still not caught up. I'm somewhere around January 2017 doing that.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God.
If something's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Yeah, true.
And I encountered that as a storytelling trope. And my initial encounter with it is I didn't care for it because the way it was presented in the fics that I read, it was a shortcut past consent. And that is absolutely counter to everything I think about both Sam and Dean. They are not wired that way. So that's how Detour got started, is basically my feelings about what I felt did and didn't work about the trope. And it just kind of took on a life from its own from there.
Sounds very, very familiar.
And just how would a world in which a biological imperative to couple off and have sex exist, how would that work in practical terms? Because world building is my jam. It's one of the reasons I like Supernatural and The Boys so much. And one of the reasons Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite things. Because that was another problem that I had with ABO as I was encountering it. In order to make the story work, it wasn't just that you had to have Sam and Dean behaving out of character. It was that the worlds had to be set up in a way that didn't work. And so I got to thinking, well, how in practical terms, how could this work? And it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
I've started reading, I think is it Calling a Professional? Is that the first one of The Professional? And I'm maybe about halfway through that. And I could definitely see where, you're really big on building the world itself and like expanding. And I really got a kick out of the way, because a lot of people just like insert a character that we know just for the sake of saying, that you can spot a character in it. But I really feel like you took a lot of the characteristics of all of the different characters and made them fit, and it made sense in that world. I think I just got to the like Abaddon part where like she comes to the reader's house because of the contract or whatever and all that stuff. And I really enjoy that, because I'm not one for just like sticking in all the characters you can just to go, oh, look, there's that person, or look, there's that person. I feel like,
because the whole point of fanfic is that we're taking characters and or settings that we know and putting them together in new ways. And it doesn't make sense to me to, if you're going to use the character, at least use them in a way that's consistent with what you know about them. Like, you're talking about, because I wanted to, because that was a case where the story kind of grabbed my brain and ran away with it. So, so I wanted a scenario where the Omega U in that story was confronted with a female alpha. And out of the entire cast of characters, I mean, who is the extremely over domineering and not in a good way female character in the story? And Abaddon was the obvious choice.
I really, I mean, so far I'm really enjoying it. And I'm not,
Thank you.
I'm ABO is kind of like hit or miss for me. And maybe you've kind of like pinpointed as to why, because like it should, like, it just doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't click, to me, in the certain scenarios that they're in, just like you said, for the sake of just getting to that point where,
well, it's a marvelous tool for shortcutting past. It's a marvelous tool for shortcutting past the bullshit if you want to get straight to the seamy stuff. But that can be overdone.
You end up having to suspend a lot of disbelief for most, because I spend more time in sort of like the Wincest area of ABO, and it's cool if you don't like that, that's fine. Like I won't talk about it or anything like that, but it's really, really prominent over there, so you kind of end up going, okay. All right, then.
Everybody's squick point is at different places, and that's cool. I'm the trope can be used. I just don't use it that way.
Yeah. No, you hauled me in with double booked, I've got to say, like 100%. So I haven't got around to any of your ABO stuff because I was like, oh my God, I have to read every single bit of this. Jesus Christ. Because I'm
talking about, being the Sam girl, the Sam person in a sea of Dean people. I'm trying to get to a place where I feel comfortable writing Sam. It's just a bit more of a stretch for me is all.
Oh no, your Sam is chef kiss. Gold stuff. It's perfect. Sandra was like, you should read this. And I was like, yeah, all right. And then I looked at her, I was like, I should fucking read this. Jesus. So Sandra was like, I've started it. I haven't finished it. And I think I must have read through like everything in a night. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, all of this. Can I ask what prompted you to sort of write that out of order? Is it just as the ideas come to you and you just put them down, or is there more?
Well, it started its existence because I've got this is actually a habit I'm trying to break. I'm trying to have space allotted out of my day where I sit down and I write stuff, because that's one of the reasons my fic count is so low, because I tend to write in dribs and drabs all over the place. I've got a file on my computer at work where in between notes that are, for work, I write little blurbs. And I've got a file on my phone where I write little blurbs. And that's how that started, was a few, filthy fantasies regarding the guys it started life as a threesome fic on my throwaway file. And I got to reading over it and fleshed it out a little bit, and like, well, okay. And said, well, it started out being as ideas occurred to me, and they were occurring to me in a way that wasn't chronological necessarily. It wasn't really supposed to develop anything resembling a theme. It's just after the first half a dozen parts or so, a thought line started to suggest itself, and then the guys started having opinions, and in short, you have a ghastly mess.
It's not a mess. It's fabulous. Yeah. No, talk to me about just wanting to do one thing, and then suddenly you're 6 fucking installments deep. I don't know what happened there, guys. What the fuck happened? Oh God.
It's a guy who writes video game reviews talking about the experience with Minecraft. He said he was going to throw the whole thing out because he was getting bored, but then he looked over at a mountain and said, you know what that's crying for? A skull fortress.
Yahtzee! Yes!
Before I knew it, 9 hours had passed, and I was picking out wallpaper for the banquet hall.
Yes. Yes. Oh God, I love that. Yeah. But no, seriously, you're just like, wouldn't it be good if I just did this one thing? Just this one thing, and then you're 6 installments deep, crying at multiple different people, going, I don't know how to unfuck this. I have fucked this so horrifically bad that I don't fuck. And then you have lovely comments of people like, you made me cry, please fix this. And you're like, oh lads, oh fuck, oh God. Yeah.
But I really didn't mean to break anybody's hearts.
Seriously. Yeah. Well, see, you saying about the guys having opinions on Double Book, that is exactly what happened. I wanted to write one thing, and then they went off together and were like, yeah, it'd be fun though. What if we did this? And I'm like, oh shit, I don't fuck. Yeah.
I think it's segueing and shooting into like getting to the porn and then realizing you've got feelings with it, and that has to be fleshed out no matter how much. I think that's a sign of a good writer. That you're realizing there needs to be like A, B, and C, or like something has to make sense within the scene or whatever. So yeah.
I told you the plot hasn't just invaded my pod. It's moved in, claimed tenants' rights, and is repainting the fucking living room.
That's good.
My blonde's watching on in horror going, what happened?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I don't know if you guys have been in fandom long enough to remember this antique concept, plot bunnies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
They've
yes.
been, and they've multiplied and they've taken the place over. Help me, please.
Yeah. That's basically that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
BJ, do you have somebody that you get to like bounce off ideas with your fan fiction a lot, or is it kind of like
I'll
you just
cry
like
out.
in there figuring it out by yourself and going, God damn it.
It's a habit that developed because I moved around so much. My internet access was so spotty. There really isn't anybody that I bounce ideas off of necessarily. And it's one of the reasons why my fic count is so low, is because I don't, with the exception of crud, Days of High Adventure, which is still in progress. I'm still working on it. I'm just chiseling out the next plot one. I don't feel comfortable posting works in progress because I've had a few that they seem very lovely, but I get about 50 or 60,000 words in and realize, this entire story is predicated on one of the main characters behaving in a way that they absolutely would not ever, and it's just not savable. And I've been burned too many times on fics that they're fabulous stories and I love them very much, but then they just kind of stop and they haven't been updated in 10 years. I think one of my favorite Buffy fics, the last time it was updated was like in 2002.
Oh no.
I know.
Oh.
So how do you filter on AO3? Do
that.
you just pick completed? Because sometimes I most of the time I do that too. And then I realize how very hypocritical that is because I don't. Like I've got a bunch of things out there now that's like, maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. And it's like I know it's just dangling there waiting for you to finish.
Well, I know I've had people say, well, do you have any plans to continue Snowbound into a series? And that's a difficult question because I think that the reader insert character there has potential. And I think that could go somewhere. The trouble is the bits that I have written, when I look at them, honestly, it's less, I have something to say and more, this is my, 10 pages of bitching about this plot point in canon that I don't think worked.
Yep.
And not that
you should post that anyway.
Isn't necessarily worth reading. It's just I gotta find a story to put around it first.
No, yeah, understood. But that's the beauty too of writing, right? Like you can just put it out there and see if anybody wants to read it or not. Usually somebody will. And
there's somebody for every kind of niche little thing like that, isn't there?
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yeah.
The only exception to that, bounce ideas off somebody, was Of Constant Sorrow, the Soldier Boy pick, the Soldier Boy fic. And that's because that started out as my mother's idea. And she and I talked a lot about how that fic developed as I was writing it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
That's great. So does your mom give it the approval?
She did. She's actually been trying to bounce ideas off me on continuing that story. The trouble is I'd love to, but I'm not really sure because the most logical conclusion to add to that any kind of story arc would be, Soldier Boy's not worth this, fuck off. And nobody wants to sit through 10,000 words of, okay, this guy really is irredeemable and this was a waste of time anyway.
I think that was one of the first ones that I read by you was the Boys fandom. And then then I ended up, I think it was Walk Right In. It's around the back, the Big Sky one, which I was just, I loved that you really, just kind of captured. I think he's just, I don't know, Bo Arlen, Karlee hasn't watched Big Sky, but he just seems just so nice and pleasant. And like all of like, even though he's dealing with angst and stuff like that, it's just like, it's measurable, it's understandable angst. Like, of course, every week on the show, there's like this, they're just always dealing with a murder and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't happen usual, but okay, we'll just suspend disbelief with that. But I really liked it. I like that you had said, how much of that was kind of also based off of your experience, moving to Texas and stuff like that. I could feel the connection there. Like it was a really great little piece. And I think that was when I was like, yep, subscribe. Okay. I want to read more of what this person's writing. So yeah, I do like that Karlee's talked a lot about this too recently, not wanting to put more of the story out there until it's closer to done. And I think I used to do that, but now I'm like getting to the point where I'm throwing stuff out there and I'm like, oh shit, I have to like, don't forget there's this thing that you have to get back to and try to finish at some point. So it's whatever kind of works for each. And it depends on the piece. It's a balance too, though, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And plus you're doing a really long one too, Karlee. So that's got a lot to do with it too right now. Like you said, it's just grown into this thing. And yeah.
I didn't ask fucking permission.
No, I know.
I will tell you that right now. Yeah, but it's especially with longer stories, you're like, oh, I want to put it out there because I want some validation, I want some motivation to keep going. But then also, oh, but I might change all of this. I can't put it out there and then I'll have to take it down and retcon it. Oh, bloody hell. So yeah. I find it helps to start with a one shot and then build from there.
Well, it's and you find that you don't think this will happen to you, but then it inevitably does because you're only human. It's like reading through the professional series and realize I just spent 2 fics calling Chuck Sturley instead of Shirley.
Oh well.
Oh God, I feel like an idiot.
But that's marginal. Like that's fine. And that's you can always go back.
It's not a big deal, but that's the kind of thing that bugs me.
I know. Especially when you've like read something over and over and over again and you think it's fine. And then you post it and then you like might glance at it again. You're like, what the hell? That makes absolutely no sense. Or there's like, something's just not right. And you're like, why, what happened? How did my mind blank out at that point? And do that.
Well,
but
I don't know if this is true or not, but, I read a blurb somewhere that the architect of the Flatiron Building killed himself before the ribbon cutting ceremony because he realized he'd built a building with no bathrooms.
Oh, God.
It's like, yep, that guy's me.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
I always say it's ready when I hate it. When I reread it that often that I hate it, I'm like, nope, it's ready now. It can go out into the internet and live its little internet life because I never want to fucking see it again.
That is true. Once you're done with it, I think you know. Yeah.
I want that framed on my wall, preferably.
Yeah.
It's ready when I hate it. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I think the other one I wanted to ask you about a little bit because I just saw that you posted and it was a short one, but it was stairwell drums, and I wanted to ask too, like you made mention of like supernatural B-sides and stuff. Do you use music a lot to kind of inspire you, or does it just depend like on what you're writing, or do you have a playlist kind of like just to get into a mindset when you're ready to write?
Well, not to write specifically. Supernatural B-sides was just me putting together, a list of songs that should have been on the show but didn't make it, probably for copyright reasons. Like Motorhead's entire catalog should be on there. Like,
oh, yes. Yes.
It's like, tell me that Back in the Funny Farm doesn't belong on that damn show somewhere.
Yeah. If you feel that way, I'm gonna break it to you that whoever it is, the powers that be, Jensen, I don't know, somebody sprung for the rights to Zeppelin's Ramble On for the end of the Winchesters. We went 15 fucking seasons without a Zeppelin song because it's too expensive to get the rights for Zeppelin songs. Somebody sprung for it for the end of the Winchesters.
Probably the money from the visual effects budget from what you're talking about.
Oh, I want to tweet that so fucking bad. I don't want to call down any wrath, but I want to tweet that so bad.
But anyway, mostly it was just, short scenes that I didn't think fit anywhere else, where where a song would do as, a thematic underpinning or just as background noise. Originally, it started as me trying to post more consistently, and that didn't happen because my brain is wired that way. But the concept sat there abandoned for ages, and then I just kind of picked it up again. Stairwell Drums was a scene from a longer story that unfortunately is kind of dead on the table due to plot malformation. But I thought the scene just on its own stood on its own well enough for me to post.
Yeah. So what is it about Sam that maybe is a little intimidating for you? Because I kind of feel the same way about him. Like I just Dean's safe to me. I feel like I understand Dean and know him. I feel like I know him, I guess, in a way that I feel comfortable writing him a little bit more. Sam's more, I'm unsure, which way to go. And I know Karlee feels the exact, I think, opposite.
Exact opposite.
Yeah.
Exact opposite.
Well, part of it is, like I was saying earlier, not sure how to say it. Well, Sam and Dean as a dynamic, there are elements of my life in there, like growing up in strange circumstances, adult children of an alcoholic, that kind of thing. Dean, I identify more strongly with because, and it's one of those questions you could never ask the man face to face because that's the kind of thing that's really too personal. But it does. I mean, if he nailed it that perfectly without having any firsthand experience with that kind of dynamic, Jensen Ackles deserves every accolade that is possible to earn for Dean Winchester, because I belly feel that really specific blend of egotism and absolutely abysmal self-esteem. He strikes that balance absolutely perfectly. Sam, though, first of all, he's a lot smarter than I am, and intellectually brilliant people are usually harder to get to know just on the face of it. Also, I felt that there were elements of his character that they hit my emotions in the wrong way. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
There are aspects of his behavior that really enrage me in some respects. And that's difficult for me to get past. It's like I start writing a story and then spend the next 2 pages calling Sam an asshole for something. And it's like, no, that's not.
Oh, Karlee does that all the time.
It's not all the time. The amount of time Sandra's got a message from me that just says they won't fucking do as they're told. I'm leaving this for a day, because I don't know like how Dean behaves for you if you're trying to write him, but they're both as bad as each other for me. I'll just be like, okay, lads, this is what we're doing, and they just go, nah. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? No, this is my thing. I'm the author. You do. And they're like, nah. And Dean is the one that will just sit and refuse to move, whereas Sam will just vomit up every fucking thing he's ever had in his head. And I'm like, guys, please, just Just
Will you
walk the
behave
path
for
I've
10
made for you. Just, I made this beautiful path and it's going to be, what do you mean? No, go, fuck off. So it's fine to spend pages and pages calling Sam an asshole because he behaves like one sometimes.
Yeah. It's the emotional connection that I have with Dean just isn't there with Sam, and it's been harder to get inside of his head. That's one of the reasons why. I mean, other than basically ripping off Incog because her fic on a similar subject is really good, why I wanted to make Double Booked primarily, well, at least to start with, Sam is the starting point, is because I needed an excuse to try and get inside his head more.
Is that which incognito is it the kind of girl you liked? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Or is it, yeah. That's a great, I could see that.
Because another one of the themes that I like about Supernatural is about how Sam and Dean are complementary opposites in a lot of ways. Their approaches to problem solving, the way that they relate to each other and the world around them. They come from the same place, but they come at it from different directions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are you protective of Dean?
Yeah, unreasonably. Okay. So.
Yeah. You sound like it because I'm that way too. Yeah. I was kind of like talking to Karlee about this too. Like I've never, it really bothers me because I've never really felt this protective about a character. And like I said, I think that has a lot to do with what Jensen brought to him over 15 years and getting to really, even though I didn't spend technically 15 years, I got to see what 15 years growth changes, does to this character. And as you get more bits and pieces, I'm so protective of him it's not a reasonable thing. The only other thing I would like,
go ahead. Feel.
Yeah.
It
hurts. Dean. Like I get like aches sometimes, like when I'm watching, rewatching things, and it's like, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, because it's like, it's going to, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen again. And it kind of like, I feel like I get more of him a little bit more every time, or I notice something which I didn't think was possible, but I'll notice something else in the way he interacts with Sam, or, what he says in this one situation that, maybe somebody didn't pick up on, that is like his trigger. And it's like, this is why he does what he does, kind of thing. And
let me put it this way. The episode near the end of season 2, What Is and What Shall Never Be. Watching that, it isn't the grave scene, although God knows that's brilliant. It's looking back at the episode in retrospect, just realizing if the reality check is, does this person, Dean Winchester, does he believe at the bottom of everything, does he believe that he deserves to live happily? His answer is and will always be no. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, because you see what he deserves, like in a way that he can't get past, I think, too. And it's just the constant, like I just John Winchester.
John Winchester's name plus parenting. Fuck you, John.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an essay that's actually on AO3. I'll have to see if I can put a link on my profile or something. Somebody doing some extended musing on parentification when it comes to Sam and Dean. And it hits a lot of the emotional notes that underpin their relationship with each other and with John.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being forced into a caregiver role before somebody is developmentally ready for it, and how that colors how you relate to people for the rest of your life, basically.
Yeah. I found it interesting. And again, like I know people harp on bugs and how awful of a episode it is, but just on a recent rewatch, like there's a conversation that Sam and Dean have, and Sam is of the complete opposite in thinking that Dean is, you know, John's quote unquote favorite. And like Dean looks at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you think that? I mean, I understand why he thinks that, but it's like, it's just not, it's not reality.
Sam is a child.
Yeah.
And he was allowed to be a child. And when you're a child, you don't get the subtleties of the relationships that are going on around you. You're not supposed to. You're a kid.
Yeah.
So Sam sees, John spending all of this time, sees John spending all of this time with Dean and interacting with him and teaching him and bringing him up in his own image. Yeah. And he thinks that's an expression of love, but it is. And this is something that I don't think Sam understands until fairly late, is that that's love is part of it, but that's not the core driving force. That's John leaning on Dean to make up for his own shortcomings as a parent.
Yeah.
And Dean lapping it up because to him, to be loved is to be useful.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. It's also worth bearing in mind as well that early on in the show, Sam's still almost recovering from John, basically him just saying, I want to break the mold, I want to do something different, and John basically going, well, you can fuck off and do it on your own then, but I won't support you.
Yeah.
And Dean stayed with John as much as he might have wanted to go with Sam. It was Dean's choice to stay with John and let Sam go as well. So he's still kind of working through all that. I identify with that aspect of Sam, like in the way you guys you see like parts of Dean and relate it to parts of your life and see yourself. I'm exactly the same with Sam. I know what it's like to not fit in to your family, to not meet their expectations, to want different things and to be outcast because of that.
Yeah.
So,
but what's
that's
so
maybe
funny?
why I find Sam.
But what's so funny is that like they're both like BJ was
neither
saying,
one
like,
of them are wrong.
Yeah, neither one of them wrong, and they're both kind of feeling the same way in the same situation, and it's so frustrating. It's like, come on, guys.
it comes full circle, right back to Tall Tales.
Yeah.
It's the same story
Yeah.
from the two different sides, and they're seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
From their own perspective. Oh my god, that was like the best segue.
That was. We went all the way around to the very beginning. Karlee, yay. I will say one thing too is that when you were talking about like, being the author and telling them just they need to get in line and just do it, I think we should all learn a lesson from Chuck and how much that did not work for him. Yeah. No matter how much he wanted. And we kind of have to
feel sympathy for Chucks.
We'll have less of that. No, I've resigned myself to a scribe. It's not my story. I'm not in control. I'm just writing down what happens. And they're
so are you Metatron?
They want to do.
You're not Metatron.
God, I hope
actually,
not.
how I think of it is if you never read Stephen King's memoir on writing, I recommend it. It's got a lot of insight into how he approaches his work. One of the things that I do respect, well, I sort of agree with him, is he thinks that stories are found things. They're not created things. It's just your job to dig out what you can of it. I view it as kind of in between. I view the brain as a junkyard, and it's your job to pick out the parts that work and put them together in a way that runs.
Yeah.
Which is another reason I like Supernatural. I spent my formative years around junkyards.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I find that cool.
Yes.
Did you have a Bobby singer?
A lot of time being bored.
Oh goodness. Oh well, Karlee, I've been like running with questions. I don't know if you got anything for BJ, because I know I've exhausted you guys too. Now it's an hour and a half, and I know it's been a while.
I'm so sorry for running off at the mouth so much.
Don't be silly,
wonderful.
no.
This is the
This is
kind of stuff that,
great.
like I said, we really do this because we like getting a chance to, talk to other writers and just, people that, love Supernatural for various different reasons and how they connect with them. I think it's great. I think I'm really happy I found, even though half the time sometimes I'm just like wanting to bang my head, sometimes with some of the stuff that's occurring. I'm still like, I loved getting a chance to, like, when I got a chance to have Incognita on, like, I've loved her stuff for years. And when she said yes, I was like, oh my God, it was like, fanning over great writers and all these wonderful stories that, you're kind enough to give us insight to and let us appreciate and read. And yeah, I'm really, really happy that, I found you and, was able to get you to come on and chat with us. No, I don't know if you had any other questions for us, BJ, before we will kindly boot you out before we do our outro for this episode. If there was anything that you wanted to leave with the readers, I think that junkyard quote was a really great one too, for all of our readers, listeners, and all that stuff. I like that. I think we got a lot of good quotes today that we can pull from. Karlee, when I listen back again, I'm going to write all them down, and then I'm gonna make it my mission this week to mock up a cross stitch pattern of "It's done when I hate it."
Yes, please.
And then I might treat myself and make that. And just
good.
it's ready when I hate it.
Good.
That's what I'm gonna do.
But now I'm gonna go off with my lovely mental image of Dean naked, but for a frilly apron with flowers, pink, and emblazoned on the front, God of Tits and Wine.
Yes.
Awesome.
100%. And you can just insert Sam in the background of that image with a bitch face. I don't even know what he's bitch facing about, but he's bitch facing about something. Probably something like, Dean, why are you naked in the kitchen? Please put pants on. We eat here. Why are you fucking like this? Something of that.
Oh gosh.
And there's Cass standing over there like, and they just kind of look at each other like, what are you looking at me for?
Oh God. Oh, well, thank you, BJ. I do appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming, and you're always welcome. Come back and chat to us again. Always.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Good rest of the day.
Y'all.
Bye.
Laters.
Bye.
Alrighty. That was good.
Yeah. That was awesome. She's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I can't wait to jump into her ABO stuff because you see a lot of different types of ABO in the Wincest side of AO3. So I'm interested to see what she's done with it when she says that she's kind of played around with it to take out things that give her the ick, which is, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Because it very much, you have to suspend a lot of disbelief because sometimes you're like, no.
Yeah. But I that was a great conversation. That was fun. That was fun.
You come back and talk to us again, BJ. Come back and talk to us again.
So I guess let's wrap up and just let everybody know that if they want to reach out to us, they can email us at idlinginthe.impala@gmail.com, or on Twitter, we're at idlinginthe_D_Impala. If you'd like to make your voice a mail, check the description for a link to send us a voice message. You can find links to our personal socials and our AO3 accounts in the description. There's a link to my author website with my original fiction. And just to put in another little note, placeholder, if you are a writer and you'd like to come on and talk to us about Supernatural and fan fiction, we're going to leave a link to a survey in the description as well for this one. We'd love to talk to lots of different writers about lots of different topics related to Supernatural and how they get the inspiration that they get. So thank you, BJ.
Yes, 100%. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a comment wherever you access your podcasts, especially if you're on YouTube. It really helps with the algorithm if you drop us a like. leave us a comment, engage with the video in some way. All hail the YouTube algorithm gods. Also, we got a website, y'all.
Yay.
We got a website now. So check out idlinginttheimpala.com. That is where you will find all our merch going forward. And there's YouTube and Spotify and a little about us section that maybe the things that we didn't cover when we did our About Us episodes all those many months ago. So come check out the website, have a look around, give us some feedback, all that good stuff. In the description of this video, you will also find the current causes that we are championing. Take a look at them if you can, if you want it, if you are able to maybe give a little bit of donation. Everybody's struggling at the moment though, so no pressure. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.